So now that we have our wings created and aligned, we can just review what we've got so far. So we have 4 sections of wing for the front. We have our right wing inner, our right wing outer, which are then mirrored on this side, and then we have our tail fin here and rudder, and the tail fin's also mirrored. So at this point, I'd just like to go back and look at the the wing sections that I've got. One of the first things I talked about was how we can divide the section counts up across the wings. One of the things you'll notice is that if I tweak this, now that we have the mirror component, it will be mirrored on both sides. And this also applies to moving the models as well. So if I do any kind of movement, the mirror is always going to stay in sync, which is really powerful. But going back to the sections, what I like to do is always try and keep an even number of sections over the models geometrically, so that I know that the model is being broken down in a consistent way across the model. So you can see that for each of the front wing sections, I'm using 10 sections here. I'm also using 10 sections, which is a default on these, but actually because this is a much smaller control surface, or sorry, airfoil surface, wing surface, there's actually a lot more of these filling a much smaller space. So what we can do is just reduce the number of sections so it's a bit more consistently matched in terms of divisions, or in terms of the space of divisions with that of the main wing, and I can do the same on the rudder as well. So now we have our wing set up. There's a couple of other things to do. We need some wheels on our aircraft. We now have collision on the wings and on the tail section, but we don't have any collision for the body. And we also need an engine. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the wheels. So if we come to our side view, again in Overdraw, we can go back to our UnityFS folder. And now back in the prefabs directory, I have a very simple wheel prefab, which is effectively just a Unity wheel collider. So I'll drop that into the wheels folder in our aircraft template. Make sure it's set to 0, and then just position it so that it's aligned with this wheel. So we're going to do, as with the wing, the right wheel first. We'll position it in the center and then just tweak the radius so that it matches the size of our wheel. So we shall call this right wheel. And then a little trick, if we just go to the front view and align it. Another handy little trick is that we can just duplicate this, rename it left wheel, and all we need to do, because we know that our object is nicely centered, if we just set this to minus, then it'll be positioned in the correct location. For our tail wheel, it's a lot smaller in the back, so we'll just drag in another wheel component, a new one. We'll call this tail wheel. And then we can align it at the back. And again, scale it so that it fits. So there we go. The engine is already attached. It's already included in the prefab, which is a simple engine here. So all we need to do is align it with the propeller. So here, and just check that it is centered, which again it should be if we pulled the aircraft in at the center. Again, we can just see our center of gravity helper here, which we can select from the Dynamics folder, and just make sure that that is in a sensible location, which it is. So finally, we're just going to add some collision for the fuselage, just so that when we start to fly around, if we crash, things will actually collide with the body. Our wings, as I said earlier, have got colliders on them, but we don't have any other collision yet. So to do that, I'll just create an empty game object, add it to the Dynamics folder, and then just add a box collider. I can then just rotate, scale this. So that it roughly matches up with the shape of the aircraft. And we'll just call that fuselage. And that's all it is. It's just literally a collider. We don't need to attach any other components to it. If we wanted to use a mesh collider, we could, but it's going to be quite expensive. And with the wing and tail colliders and this collider, it should just give us a good approximation. What we do is actually just scale it and rotate it a little bit more, just so that it's not intersecting the back wing. So there we go.